everybody. I think I am live and I think I'm probably super bright. And I think today I'm not going to worry about it because, I don't know, I got still some things to work out and I think I'm just going to leave it alone unless somebody tells me, oh my gosh, I can't even see you because you're so bright. So if that's the case, then let me know. And I will do something about it. I'm just like, I can't, I'm having a difficult time differentiating what I see on the screen versus what other people can see. So sometimes my fixing it just makes it worse. So I will wait for someone to say, you're fine, or I can't hardly see you because you are glowing with your whiteness, which is a natural problem that I have. It's a little bit bright, says Raven Song. Okay. I have a feeling if I try to fix it right now, that we'll have a problem. Yeah, that's what, okay. Well, that's good to know because that is what I'm seeing as well. So at least that's good to know. I'm kind of worried that if I try to fix, let's just see, you know what? Yeah, see, I probably look like the color of Dracula, Simon. That's what Simon's nicely trying to say, is that you look a little close to the vampire white, Kelly. Okay, let me just see. If I feel like it's going to mess it up, I'll stop. Okay, let me. You know, I was just on Apple for too long. Although I will say there are some things I've really enjoyed about switching to Windows. So I'm not going to entirely blame it. It's just that I have to figure it out. It's not new makeup. It's the webcam. Same old makeup. Okay, so I'm going to close this. Now I'm going to see webcam options, advanced settings. I see a new deck with a serpent. I think that, okay, here we go. I'm opening something that looks like it might be helpful. Okay, there's this right light. I don't know what that is. I'm going to take this auto off. We are, thank you for your patience. I know. I'll figure this out. Oh, here, brightness. Oh, is that working to you? It is a bluish tint. Oh, because the white balance is, whoa. Okay, I can be orange. Hello, orange me. You know what? I wonder if it's the right camera. Yep, it's the right camera. Okay. I haven't started the Dracula yet. I have yet to start it. I just found out about this morning. My friend Bart was like, did you know that there is a new Dracula show on Netflix? And I'm like, no. Now I have jaundice. Now I'm orange. Okay, let's see if we can fix it a little bit. Oh, right there. Tammy says, stop. Stop what you are doing. So yeah, at least I feel like I'm not glowing as much. Well, yeah, the Netflix, oh yes, the Dracula that's like 3 parts is on Netflix. I don't know if it's someplace else as well, but I think it's a Netflix made Dracula. So maybe you're watching something different, Simon. I don't know. But I will say that I haven't got a chance to watch it because he showed it to me. I had to go out and I got my hair cut. Just trimmed up because I am trying to grow it out, you know. But I did get it trimmed up. And she did tell me, she's like, look, my lovely hairdresser. She's like, you don't have to feel like a troll. She didn't say that. I said that. I'm like, I feel like a troll. It just lays there. There's no layers. And she's like, even if you're growing it out, you're allowed to get layers. So she gave me some layers. Of course, I have to go wash it and do it myself because you know how it is when you go to a hairdresser. The way they style it never looks right. I'm sorry to my lovely hairdresser, but you have to wash it yourself and do it yourself. Anyways, yes, I think it is a BBC. It's by the people who directed Sherlock. So it is a BBC, but it's on Netflix. I don't know. Now I'm confused. But there is one on Netflix. It's 3 parts. They're like 80 minutes a piece. And so I know it's a little poofy, but oh well. I didn't have time to wash it and then restyle it. So you just get what you get. So yeah, I haven't got to watch it yet, so no giveaways. I did watch it enough to see that I love what they did with Van Helsing. I guess I won't give it away, so I probably shouldn't give it away, but I did skim through enough things and watch the trailer and Googled a couple things, and I absolutely love what they did with Van Helsing. So that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to give it away. Okay. I'm going to pay attention here. The Mystic Dream Tarot as well. My daughter got me that that's what they were talking about. It was a serpent. I didn't know what they were talking about. I haven't looked too much at it. My daughter got it for me for Christmas. And so I have not had a chance. It looks really interesting. The imagery looks really beautiful. Maybe we'll look a little bit at it in the second part. It looks like it's very intentionally done in a very specific theme. I'm kind of feeling like they did a really good job intentionally, but I haven't done much with it at all. So it was a Christmas present from my lovely daughter, along with, she also got me this for Christmas. I haven't read it yet, so I talked about this last time, I think. A surprising exploration into the wonder of consciousness. I'm really excited to read this, but I haven't. So she got me those for Christmas. Somebody heard it was an oracle deck. I don't know what you're talking about there, Claire. This is a tarot deck. So I'm not sure. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna scroll any further. Miss Nikki's in the house. Hello, Miss Nikki. Thank you. So we're pausing for a moment, and then we're gonna go into our topic. But I'm gonna pause for a minute and say thank you to Miss Nikki. She has been an amazing moderator for a very long time. B, she went through my favorite things decks and like time-stamped and put all of the names of the decks that I was babbling about and I pinned it in the top of the thing. And that was so sweet to have done all of that work so that you can find, what is the deck I'm even talking about? And if you just want to skip to a deck, I just thought that was really sweet and definitely made my day. So thank you, Miss Nikki, for all that you do to keep things moving forward. Okay, so I'm going to pause now, and now I'm going to kind of shift gears here. If you are just coming on, hello, Emily. I haven't seen you forever. If you haven't been here forever, and it's been kind of messed up the last couple of weeks because of the holidays, but we've been doing where the first hour is topic, and then the second hour is sort of a free-for-all. And I do try to stay a bit on focus on the topic part, at least to like babble out what I want to say. And then we switch gears. So if I don't see what you're saying right away in the chat in this first hour, please have some grace because I'm trying to stay a little bit on focus. So then we'll go a little crazy the second hour. So I was really thinking about what the topic should be for this week. And I found myself like looking, I'm very goal oriented. So I do like to have goals. I don't set a lot of goals, like in terms of New Year's resolutions. I don't set a ton of New Year resolutions. I usually have one or two sort of like larger things that I want to work on. And I generally keep them because I try to be reasonable. My resolutions don't have anything to do with like weight loss or something like that can be very problematic and things of that nature. But I try to be like bigger things that I'm working on. And I tend to keep them because I try to keep those bigger. So I do like to have goals. And I do think that it's important, the New Year's comes and, we ate our way through the holidays, some of us, not all of us, but some of us, the holidays have happened. We've probably, a lot of us, eaten not our best. We probably haven't slept our best. I'm coming out of December, which is a hard month for me, grief work wise. And so by the time January comes, I feel like we have this like, okay, we look in the mirror and we're like, all right, I need to, reorganize my life. I need to strip my schedule down and reschedule it. I need to lose 50 pounds. I need to do this and do this. I need to change this in my business. I need to find the job of my dreams. I need to find the woman or the man of my dreams. And like we have all of these things that we're just like looking at ourselves and saying, holy goodness, you're a hot mess. This is what I've got to do this year to fix this mess, right? And I think that, and we see a lot of stuff that's in social media about sort of get your life together, 3 steps towards losing weight, 3 steps to doing this, change your life this way, motivate yourself to go even harder at your business this way. And so we have all these things coming at us in social media and memes and things about, okay, change your life so that you can be happy to do X, Y, Z. And I feel like we just need to breathe for a second. And I think that it's a good opportunity to think about just being present where we are right now, that we don't have to. It's this weird thing because I do believe in goals. I do believe that it's important to have a plan for yourself and what are the things that you want to achieve and a direction that you're moving in. I think those things are important, right? If we don't live in this, I'm going to talk a little bit about Buddhism today because that's from where I would come from in this genre or talking about this. But I think that unless you're living in a mountain in Tibet, in a cave, or you're living in a, abbey or something like that, if you're a nun or if you are a priest and you're living in a particular place where everything is routine, your bills are paid, you're focused on your self and you're focused on being present in that inner space, it's a little easier to live that way when you're on the top of a mountain in Tibet. It's a little bit harder. There's a bit of more of a balancing act that has to occur when you take on those sort of concepts, but you're also living in the world in which you do need to go to work. You do need to pay your bills. You do need to deal with relationships and manage relationships and manage life itself, right? So we have to, as all things, right? We have to find that space of balance in the concepts that we talk about and say. We have to have some balance there. So I'm really a proponent of being present, fully present. It is probably the one thing, it's probably the most important thing that being the mother to my son taught me as a human being. So I believe one of the things that I most gained from my experience of being a mother of a chronically ill, life-threatened disease child for 23 years was learning how to be present, because I literally couldn't function looking, a year ahead, because there may not be a year ahead, or even living 6 months ahead, because there may not be 6 months ahead. And so it forces you to live presently and in the now and say, what am I going to do with what I have right here and right now? I can't say, all right, next year when your health might be a little bit better, we're going to be happy then. We're going to do things then. We're going to live our lives then. Let's just get through this mess right now. But we're really going to find our happiness in a year or two. It could be worse in a year or two if you're dealing with chronic illness or a life-threatening disease. So no, you don't wait 2 years. You live right here, right now. How do you find a way to be happy where you are? Find happiness, find peace in the difficult spaces. And so I think that a lot of what the part of the things that I had to come to terms with, because I was coming out of fundamental Christianity, which is very much looking for heaven, right? This world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. I could start singing it, right? We're just here passing through because we're trying to get to heaven. So what I'm doing on here in some ways doesn't really matter other than just being good and being right and following the rules. But we're going to find happiness in heaven somewhere over there. Now, this is not just Christianity. Other things have that sort of end goal mentality that's where we're going to find our joy and our happiness. Just get through the mess right now because you're going to have your reward when you get to heaven. How about we find that reward and we find that space where we are at right now. Now, I do think, again, that having hope, having goals, it's that whole balancing thing, right? Because if you take even mindfulness, and if you take even being present to literally and to we're tunnel vision right here, right now. We're not even going to think about tomorrow. That can get really difficult if you're in a bad situation, right? It can be very difficult because all you can see is this hard stuff that's right here. And so you have to figure out a way to have that balance that says, don't put off tomorrow. Don't put off finding peace and finding a way. And I'm not talking about happiness where we're spinning around in joy all of the time. I'm talking about a comfortability with self and a happiness, that internal happiness that comes from self, and that peace that comes with, okay, despite what's happening around me, I'm present here and I'm dealing with it and I'm finding my peace here. But at the same time, having those sort of, okay, now then, what do I need to do to shift myself, right? How do I shift? Because maybe this isn't where we want to stay. And so it's finding, I'm sorry, there are people coming up the steps, so she's going to go crazy. Okay, sorry, I've lost my track with that because I heard a whole bunch talking. It's finding the balance between it. And I think that why so many times we look at memes with, you used to call them cliches, obviously, one day at a time, just live one day at a time. That's a cliche. But at the same time, it's also true, right? We can't live tomorrow. We don't have yesterday anymore. We don't have tomorrow yet. We can only live right now in the present. So it's a cliche and it can be really annoying, but there's truth to it. So when we go on and scroll through Instagram and we see these, I think they're all called memes. I don't know if memes is an actual, there's a specific what is a meme, but you do beautiful little square pictures and they have a quote or something on there, or a positive statement about, live life now, or, be happy in the moment, grow where you're planted, or, they have those types of things like that on them. And when we're scrolling through Facebook, if we aren't feeling we're feeling it where we're at is not all that wonderful, it really can get annoying. You can be like, okay, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna grow where I planted. This is really this is not where I want to grow. I don't, and you see those things and you're just kind of oh. But a lot of times they do have truth in them, right? There is truth to be found in them. They just because there's so much of it, it starts to get annoying that's there. So sometimes we have to sort of see past our own irritation and say, okay, well, that's true, but it's a little bit annoying. And you're seeing a lot of that, I think, right now, because we're at the beginning of January and everybody's like, go do this, be the best you. And so it gets a little bit frustrating. tracking it. I know people are probably saying wonderful, wonderful things, but I'll have to scroll back up and see that. So my point is, my rambling point is that we do, I believe, and again, this is my way of approaching it. So what got me to 51 years old is not going to be the same thing that gets somebody else to 51, right? So for me, having to really deal a lot with very difficult things with my son's illness. So a lot of times where we are right now wasn't the best thing. And truthfully, looking at tomorrow, the next year was a little bit frightening, because who was most likely not going to be better in a few years. And so the lessons that I had for me in my life could be very different for you in your life. But I do think one of the best things that I did learn from my son was to find a way to be at least at peace. Maybe not, running down the street singing, kumbaya, but find ability to function and be at peace where you are, and balance that with, yes, we want to have goals. Yes, we want to make improvements. Yes, we want to say, okay, this isn't really great. I do need to make some shifts and changes, but it can't be your whole focus for happiness. I guess that's the very bad way that I am trying to explain it, is that if your focus for happiness is always on what's going to happen at a later date, I feel like we're really missing the bus then, right? Because there's always going to be a curveball. There's always going to be things that delay or interrupt what it is that we're trying to do. Or we get to that thing and we find that our own problems, right, that the issues that we have come with us, right? So we say, okay, when I graduate college and I can finally get into the workforce, then I'm going to be happy. And when we we graduate college, we find we're still there, right? Ourselves with our own issues and the own things that we have, the problems that we have and the things that we need to work on. It's still there, right? We brought that with us, and now we have work problems. We have, okay, now we've got this job and we've got to deal with work problems. So we put off being happy until that space, and then that space comes and all of a sudden, okay, now I got to search for something else to make me happy. And so how do we figure out, right, how to be present, find the joy, find the peace where we are, still having our goals, but not banking our happiness on what's going to go ahead, which I think is, it's not an easy thing, right? So it's really easy to say, find peace now, or again, plant or grow where you're planted, or, be present. That's a big thing for me. That's a really good mantra for me, or something to focus on, is to be present. I don't want to miss out. If you think about raising a very ill child, you want to be present. I don't want to be somewhere in the future. I don't want to be somewhere else, because this present is all we really are promised. And so being present is so, so, so important. But it's super easy to say those things, and it's not always so easy to do those things. So I think maybe the memes and the things like that are irritating, because it almost comes off like that's the easy work. It's easy. It's the Six of Cups. I have a video that is all about the Six of Cups, because I do believe it's one of the most difficult cards in the tarot deck. And I think it is the most underrated, right? Because the Six of Cups showing up in readings for people who are struggling and who are have been through a lot in their lifetime, to have a card come up that says, see the world with eyes of wonder where you're at. It's not saying do it in 10 years, or not saying do it when you get out of the mess you're in. It's saying stop where you are and see the world, see the sky, see the trees, listen to the leaves rustling, like be present and see the wonder that's there. That is a hard card when you are working with somebody or yourself that is struggling and going through really difficult situations. And yet it is so powerful, because when we do have those moments in the midst of really difficult things where we do see the sky, for a moment we see that really blue sky, or for a moment we do hear the birds singing, or for a moment somebody's reaching out a hand, we see that so that we can take it. It's so powerful. And so I think it's so important to find that a space for being present, not flippantly, not in using it as a way to tell somebody else what to do. I guess, and we've talked about this before for other things. I think that there are many truths that are for ourselves to find out, right? It is for us to find out in the journey. And yes, we might read a book, or yes, we might, have a conversation on YouTube with us about this conversation. It might make us start thinking about it. But it's for us to figure out, because if we go to somebody else who's in the midst of a really difficult situation and say, hey, find peace where you are, that's not the way it works, right? It's not for us to look at somebody else in a difficult situation, or any situation, and throw out these little jewels of advice to that person. That's a hard road for them to figure out. I think that's sometimes why something like tarot or oracle, especially good ones that are really balanced, because the cards can lead you to seeing those things without some other person saying, just grow where you are. Just find find joy in every moment. Be present regardless of the crap that you have going on around you. When somebody else is telling you that, it's not as effective as, of course, when we figure it out for ourselves, which I know is counterintuitive because we're having this conversation right now. So, and I did think of that. But I still think it's a good conversation to have, especially right now, because I do think we're bombarded as with so much of that go, and life is wonderful, and just lose 20 pounds and you're going to be happy, or motivate yourself to reach for abundance, and by 2021 you're going to have everything you ever wanted, and this kind of go mentality, and it's like, okay, but how about we figure out how to be happy right here now in the body that needs to lose 50 pounds and that needs to maybe get a better sleep cycle going? How about it if I figure out a way to at least find some peace here, because that's what's probably going to help me to actually follow through on the things that I need. Anyways, I'm kind of babbling here a little bit, and I know lots of wonderful things has been said, so I'm going to scroll back in a minute. I do want to just really quick put this out here before I get totally sidetracked, because I know I will when I scroll things out. And I've mentioned these books before, but because I am talking about this right now, I do want to mention some of the books that helped me. Now, again, same thing with book recommendations. Some books are going to help you, some books are not. After my son died, a lot of people recommended grief books for me, and I could not stand grief books. I would start to even read a chapter of a book on grieving, and it would just make me so angry. I would be like, this is ridiculous. Like, is this person who wrote this even been in my situation? Because it feels like they have no clue. Like, I just had a very strong irritation to grief books, whereas somebody else could pick up that book and it would probably really help them. So I'm not saying that these books are the end all and be all, but I am saying that they did help me. And so and I've mentioned these all before. So I do want to at least just put them in here. So the books, and I've talked about this a billion times. The Tao of Pooh was the first book that I read. I don't like the Piglet one, but the Tao of Pooh taught me how to let go. It taught me how to let go of the whys, and it taught me, because I realized that there was no good answer. There was no answer that somebody was going to come to me and say, why does my son have to suffer? Nothing that anybody told me was going to make it better. And so I had to let go of that and just move, just relax into the flow, not struggle against stuff that I couldn't change, which was keeping me from being present. So that was the first book. So the Tao of Pooh. The second two books, I got these really close together, but these two books had a big impact on me. And the first one is The Places That Scare You. Yes, they're definitely Kelly Bear. And I will definitely reiterate with Kelly. I don't agree with everything that's in here. And the Piglet book, the second book, I don't like as much at all. But that one message, right, was worth it for me. So I guess I don't think that we have to, which Kelly Bear says, there's a lot of helpful stuff. I don't think we have to agree with everything in a book, to take what is going to help us and let go of the rest. I think that should just be that's probably happens with every single book. So I totally agree with Miss Callie Bear. Okay, this is called The Places That Scare You, A Guide to Fearlessness in Difficult Times. And this is by Pema Chodron. This was, what I loved about this was that she is a Buddhist nun, but she isn't ignoring. I think that people, I've talked about this, I don't want to belabor the point, but I think a lot of people think about Buddhism. And again, there are many kinds of Buddhism, right? So saying Buddhism is like saying Christianity. There's a lot of different ways that people approach Christianity. There's all different types of Christianity. There's all types of ways that we use Christianity. And same thing with Buddhism. There are cultures that have Buddhism that's far more like a religion. There are people that work with Buddhism if it's as more of a philosophy. There are Zen Buddhists. There are Tibetan Buddhists. There are all different kinds of Buddhists, right? So that's kind of a broad term. But Buddhism, for me, the way that I practiced Buddhism isn't about ignoring or detaching from difficult things. It's about leaning into difficult things and working through them. And that's a lot of that is because of Pema Chodron. She doesn't shy away from the difficulties of life. And that's why I resonated with her, where a lot of other things could irritate me. This wasn't irritating. So this is one. The other one is the wisdom. No, it wasn't this one. Oh, I guess I don't have it. No, it's When Things Fall Apart. I didn't pull that one out. She's got another one called When Things Fall Apart. And that one is, that was the second one that I read, and that's so good. This is a good one too. This is The Wisdom of No Escape and the Path of Loving Kindness. But the one I was meaning to pull was When Things Fall Apart. Because again, it wasn't advice for, when everything's hunky-dory, but it's advice for the difficult times. Like, life isn't always easy. In fact, it rarely is. And so acknowledging that was really helpful. Not that this is this isn't a bad book. In fact, this has, I'm seeing what I had. Our life's work is to use what we have been given to wake up. This is something I do really believe. I do think that most people in life are sleepwalking. Most people are in the matrix, and perhaps maybe happy to stay in the matrix. But our life's work is to use what we have been given to wake up. If there were two people who were exactly the same body, same speech, same mind, same mother, same father, same house, same food, everything the same, one of them could use what he has to wake up, and the other could use it to become more resentful, bitter, and sour. It doesn't matter what you're given, whether it's physical deformity or enormous wealth, or poverty, beauty, or ugliness, mental stability or mental instability, life in the middle of a madhouse or life in the middle of a peaceful, silent desert. Whatever you're given can wake you up or put you to sleep. That's the challenge of now. What are you going to do with what you have already? Your body, your speech, your mind. Love it. Love it. She's a good writer. She's actually a really good writer. So, the other thing is probably anything written by Thich Nhat Hanh. I have all of his books. This one is Being Peace by Thich Nhat Hanh. If I had to pick like two people who were most influential, a biggest influence for me and my way of thinking and getting through the crap of life, it would be Pema Chodron and Thich Nhat Hanh. So anything by him. So this is not particularly one. It's just that this one does have his really powerful poem in it called Please Call Me by My True Names. And this is a hard one because that's a whole nother topic, because it talks about how it's easy to have compassion for the victims of crime, the very obvious victims, like the person who has been assaulted. But when we have to put ourselves in the place of the people who commit the crimes, or what created the person who committed those things, that having compassion is a lot harder. But it doesn't mean that that's not what we're supposed to do. Very powerful stuff there. So the other thing that I have, because people always ask me, and again, because we have to understand that when I talk about mindfulness, or if I talk about being present, or that came from things that I studied in Buddhism, there's a lot of different types of Buddhism, and not all types of Buddhism are the same. And what I would even say, yeah, go for it. So this is probably the best book that talks about the way I have approached Buddhism, which is Buddhism Without Beliefs by Stephen Batchelor. I just find this to be a really good opening of the concepts of Buddhism more as a philosophy or as a way of living, not having anything to do with religion. So that's probably I always usually recommend that one, just because it sort of steps outside of any religious context. But anyways, I wanted to stick those books in there just because, even though I've talked about them before, because I have found those to be helpful. Whether they are helpful to you is going to be very different. And truthfully, whether books that are helping us to get through things are helpful can really depend on the circumstances, right? There are times in which I'm really open to reading something like these books, and I say, okay, I can take that information in. There are other times in which it is the wrong time. It's just not the right time, and I'm not going to hear it because I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, or life is too heavy, and I'm not going to hear the message because I'm just not in the space to do so. So we have to know when is a time for us to take in something that might give us that hangman's moments, put us in a new perspective, let us see something differently. And then there are other times in which we may just not be in the space to take that in. And that's perfectly fine as well. So I am, yes, exactly, Miss Molly. Once you can't go back in the matrix. You cannot go back into the matrix. I'm going to scroll up a little bit, but if there is a specific question that I missed or something, please. Spiral Heart just threw a question up, so I'm just going to go there and then I'll scroll up. Do you think that magic is in conflict with some of the principles of Buddhism, since it can take you out of the present and more about the future? Definitely depends on what you talk about as magic, right? So magic is such a big word. I think we should probably do a topic on magic. I don't know if we have or not. But anyways, what somebody describes as magic, it can be very different. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And some of it you might miss when we went back to the beginning, is that I don't take Buddhism or the concepts of Buddhism as a religion. I think of it as a philosophy that helps me to gain some balance, right? It's not, I wouldn't consider myself today a Buddhist, while I did for a very long time, but it is part of the way that I see the world. And I do think that there is balance there, because technically, if you follow the precepts, some of it, again, depending on what precepts you're following, are you following Tibetan Buddhism? Are you following Zen Buddhism? I know there's many other ones, and those are the only two that are coming to my head. But there are different types of Buddhism, and so what are you following? So then you would never be obviously trying to affect change. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh even would have been considered a Zen Buddhist, but he, really moved towards and calling himself an engaged Buddhist because, truthfully, being a Buddhist like Thich Nhat Hanh, who was engaged in social reforms and trying to work with a lot of the problems that are out there in the world, he probably would have been seen as not really Buddhist enough by some Buddhists because he was really engaged in the world, the social issues of the world around him. So there's a lot of different ways to take that. And I think things should be taken in balance, as we said it from the beginning. For me, it's important to be present and to take those concepts that really help me to stay present and be grounded in the now and figure out a way to be find a space of peace, find a place for my feet to be on the ground firmly where I'm at, and not have my happiness come in the future. But at the same time, I do believe in setting goals. I do want to have things that I'm trying to work towards. I do struggle with the idea of hope. The concept of hope is, we should have a talk on just the word hope. For the longest time, the idea of hope for me was so difficult. And I still have trouble with the word hope, because hope means that you aren't fully present where you are now. You're hoping that in the future something changes, right? In order to then be happy or then be contented or then find peace, versus just dealing with the way things are now. And so it gets very complicated. So for me, though, magic is about working with energy. So it's working with the energy that is around you. And I don't see that in conflict with the way that I see Buddhist core principles. But that's for each person to find that for themselves, depending on how deeply they are into the mindset of Buddhism, what type of Buddhism that is, and then what does magic mean to you. If you mean magic that says, I'm going to cast a magic spell so that person loves me, then yes, I would say that would probably be not probably in alignment with Buddhism if you were seeking to change somebody else in order to gain something for yourself, right? So whatever, it depends on what that means to you, and what each of those things mean to you is whether or not that's going to be a problem. And I know that sounds like equivocation, but it really isn't. Like, these are big words. So for me, magic has to do with the elements and the energies that are around us and working with those energies, right? Can we try to shift those energies? Yes. We have the freedom of free will. We are empowered by choice. And so we can shift and change things. But then to some degree, we just have to work with the energies that we do have, some of the greater energies that we don't have control over. And so working with what I would consider to be magic, it doesn't bother me whatsoever, in terms of it doesn't interrupt what I would think of as the basic principles of Buddhism that for myself. And that's really the only way I can make that differentiation. Elle says, I have a fundamental difficulty with the concept that the ultimate goal of Buddhism is nirvana. Poof, you're gone. I don't know that, again, that's a very, peanut. That's a very nutshell of what I think the end goal of a Buddhist might be. I think that everybody can take that, take the concepts and do what they will with it. So for me, that isn't That's not the goal of Buddhism. For me, the goal of Buddhism is figuring out how to live presently in the world. So it's a philosophy of how to live, and it's really less about what happens later. I can't quote it exactly, but even the concept of God and things of that nature. When Buddha was asked about that, was like, Buddhism is just a finger pointing at the moon. It's kind of giving you a pointing, figuring out what about God or the afterlife or those types of things. That's up to you to figure out. Now, again, there are religions that are based around Buddhism, and then they have other concepts that are brought in. So for me, the point of Buddhism or Buddhist thinking isn't nirvana. The point of Buddhist thinking for me is about living. How do we function and live in the world as it is? So everybody's so different. Yeah, I don't believe that Buddhism is, because I think of Buddhism as a philosophy and a way of living. You can be a Buddhist Christian, you can be a Buddhist witch, you can be a Buddhist whatever you are. It's just a way of thinking. It's a way of functioning in the world, of living in the world. But again, other people have to find their own path of what that might be. Okay, so I'm trying to scroll. Took my phone to the laundry room. I don't know what that conversation is, so I'm rolling it out. Again, if I've missed something, please don't hesitate. It's not from ignoring, it's just from having to talk and keep my brain in one direction. I like the idea of working with energies around you as magic. Yes, that's how I see it. Yeah, we should probably have a whole conversation just about hope. It's a very difficult word for me. Essence is so anti whatever anyone else thinks I should think or believe. That's true. My only conflict is within. Basically, find peace and magic in Buddhism, then do it. I totally agree with Essence. And I think it's actually impossible. Well, it's not impossible for somebody to say how they think you should believe, but it's impossible for someone to cause you to believe. You can't fake belief. You believe what you believe, and whether somebody wants you to believe something differently or not, it's kind of just a waste of energy to try to convince somebody to believe the way they believe, or thinks a particular way, because we have to. That's something that is so internal, which is why, bye, Miss Molly. Which is why I did even question whether to have this conversation. So hopefully, because I know sometimes these conversations can come up. This is what has helped me. This is what I can find irritating about this time of the year, that we are so big, because I found myself in that same place, right? I found that myself thinking, okay, 2019, 2020, I have got to, shed weight. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I am going to be miserable until that happens. How can I make it happen as fast as it can? Because I'm like, wait a minute, right? No. I got to root and ground my feet here and find my space and find my peace right here and now. And then I'll start from that place is where I'll start, moving outward on the things that I want. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring the conversation up, because I think we see so much right now of these, again, grow where you are, change your life, and take this seminar and change your business and change your life, and everything's going to be better if you do XYZ. And so I think that so I think it's worth a conversation, as long as we understand that we have to, this is stuff we've got to figure out for ourselves. And just because that's what I figured out works doesn't mean that's going to be helpful to somebody else. So I don't want to sound like I'm on a soapbox, because that's very irritating. Somebody asked something about indoctrinating children. What about children being indoctrinated? Well, obviously, Elle, because I came from fundamental Christianity, I have a very strong anathema to indoctrination, because I do believe, again, I came from a strict fundamentalism, so the extreme end of things. And so it is indoctrination, it is brainwashing, and it has long-term ramifications for that person. So I have a very strong pushback and reaction to indoctrination of children. At the same time, there is no way to raise children without, to some degree, indoctrinating them, right? Even though I did a lot of things with my children to try to not do that. So, for example, because I taught my children, my son was very ill, he couldn't go to school. My daughter couldn't go to school and bring home sicknesses. So I taught them from kindergarten through high school, all the way through to the graduation. So I went out of my way to make sure that we were doing a lot of religious studies, where we were studying all different religions, all different cultures, mythologies, ways of thinking, even ones that, weren't something maybe of interest to me, or maybe something that I went through. So I tried to go out of my way to expose them to different ways of thinking and different ways of being, so that they could find their path. But no matter what, they were in somewhat indoctrinated by myself, right? The way that I see the world, the way that I function, the way that I believe, the things that I found about meditation and kind of a loving kindness meditation and being present, those types of things filtered into their way of seeing the world, because I'm their mother and they are greatly influenced by me. And of course, then they're indoctrinated by their father and the things that he believed, and they're indoctrinated by the media to some degree, right? So I think that we as parents should go out of our way to expose our children to lots of ways of thinking and be open to them finding their own path. And so that's the best, that's the best that I can do, because I know that who I am did influence. I hear it in my daughter all the time. She'll say things and I'll be like, oh, wow, she really did pick up on who I am and, the way that I see the world. It certainly has an impact on her. I can see that. And so, you do the best that you can, but strict indoctrination to a specific religion that says you can't ever do anything else or think another way, I do think is problematic. That's definitely a hot button for myself. Yeah, I agree, Al. We definitely, but I think that at least if we can raise, if the people who are in charge of raising children can make the attempt to expose them to different ways of thinking and be open to their children not following their same path. My daughter has a different belief system than I do, even though our basic core beliefs are very similar. She is very strong in her Christian faith, in a beautiful, and I love the faith that she has found and what is important to her. It's a beautiful thing to watch, even though it is different than what mine might be. And we respect each other's beliefs, and that is a beautiful thing to see. But she's not on the same path that I'm on. She respects it, she loves it, she comes to me for juju water, but she has her own beliefs. She's an adult woman on her own journey, and I feel like that's what we should be doing for children, is giving them the space to find their own path and being happy and supportive when they find that path that hopefully is one that respects other people. But that's the work, right? Emily says, educating kids and teaching them tools of discernment, empowering them to make their own choices is the best we can do. Yeah, I agree, Miss Emily. It does, Tammy. It really does. I have many times, thankfully, mostly it's been good things, but not always. What the impact that parents have on their children is so strong. They're we're raising human beings. I say that all the time, that it's such a terrifying and amazing thing to be responsible for raising human beings. And clearly, given the state of the world, we have a lot of people not doing it very well. But I have definitely had, she said things to me, like she's encouraged me or like been trying to support me. And she says things that it's like me talking to myself. And it's like, whoa, like she heard those things, even when I didn't think at 13 or 14 that she was hearing them. But I've also seen the more negative things that also come back up, my trying to be superwoman and not express, not cry or not be human and feel those hard things. Those are things that she has to struggle with because she saw me trying to function in a very difficult situation by having a tight rein on my emotions. And so those things, she picks up too, right? Unfortunately, we don't get to pick and choose what they pick up from us. We just hope that in the end we got more of the good than the bad. Essence said, absolutely. I indoctrinate my children not to eat mayonnaise, but 3 out of 4 of them eat mayonnaise, and I still love them unconditionally. I love it. I love mayonnaise. Peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwiches. Oh, I'm going to have one, I think, when I get off. I love peanut butter mayonnaise sandwiches. That's pretty funny. I love that. Okay, I'm trying to scroll back a little bit, but if there's something that I missed that you would like me to see or something, please don't hesitate to repeat it because I just missed things. Some of all is right, all of one almost never is. Dixon's grain of salt, yeah, individual choices. Yeah. Yeah, I do agree, Nikki. Yeah, I don't want to be a total bummer on the New Year's because I do really enjoy the new year. I look forward to that sort of clean slate, like Nikki said. I love, starting a new planner. I love kind of coming like, okay, wash 2019 out of my hair. Let's just kind of rebalance myself, reset the things here. I enjoy that. I like the beginning of a new year. I like the feel of freshness. But at the same time, again, finding that balance where we're not just so overwhelmed by we've got to make all these resolutions and we've got to do better than we did in 2019. We've got to get it right this year. All of those kind of messages, I think, can be very overwhelming as well. And so taking a moment or an hour on Saturday to just think about, okay, but let's be present where we are. Let's not put everything on the whole future of 2020 as we do it. I know a lot of things went by the wayside of like the sing-alongs. That is part of my goal in 2020 is to have good expectations that I can follow through and not put myself in a situation of snowball effects. That's one of my goals for 2020. Consistency, balance. 2 of Pentacles as my card of the year makes most sense. Pickle relish and mayo sandwiches Sherry's grandma had, or granny. I do like pickle relish and mayonnaise, but not by themselves. That doesn't sound good. Maybe with some ground bologna. Piano goal for 20. I do have piano goals. My piano goal is doing a half an hour a day, 5 days a week. That's my goal. If I can't carve out 30 minutes to practice a piano 5 days a week, that's just ridiculous because it is fulfilling and it is inspiring. And so that is my piano goals for 2020. I love New Year energy. I would like to apply it better. My card is 8 of Pentacles is fantastic too, though. That's that really applying energy. I can see the dream terror. Yes. We talked about that earlier. My daughter got me this for Christmas. And so I haven't, I want to read through the book before I do a walkthrough, because I do feel like this is a fresh system. Like, I do feel like they're trying to do something very deliberate in terms of dreams and sort of internal unconscious work. And so I do want to give it, but let's look at a couple of the cards. I really haven't looked at this too much at all. Yes, questions can come. Essence. I do really love it. Hello, Miss Shay. Thank you for the beautiful talk. Of course, we see eye to eye. I have to go. Bye, sweetie. Have a good day. Rachel received bad news yesterday, so this year is a hard start, which I wasn't expecting. I'd been looking forward to the new start, but now it feels different. It does shift things, doesn't it? I really have had a lot. I'm going to pause. Let me pause for 1 second for Miss Rachel. I have been, what's been on my mind all day while I've been kind of thinking about this is Margaret Peterson's 6 of Pentacles. Let me see if I can find it, because it's one of my favorite, well, it is my favorite 6 of Pentacles, but it's just one of my favorite cards, period. So let me see if I can quickly find it. If you're wondering, I'm looking through the Margaret Peterson Tarot, which is one of my pieces of my soul. We all know I have many pieces to my soul, but this is definitely one of them. Oh, I love this crone card. Oh, my nails are kind of gross, so ignore them. I need to redo them today. It's going to be the very last card, or I already passed it. Whenever you're looking for something, right? It's gone. Here, it's the very last card. Okay. This is one of my all-time favorite. I don't even like to see my nail like that. Like, it bothers me. Here we go. This is where our brain idiosyncrasies get in the way. I love this card so much, and I've been thinking a lot about this card in terms of thinking about starting a fresh year, right? Versus that, I've got to do all these things. I've got to make all these resolutions. It's got to go perfect. I've got to be better this year. Life has to be better. Things have to be better. I need to be happier. I need to be more successful. And we're like, right? Go. I feel like this is how we should be starting 2020, with our feet on the ground. So this is an example of understanding the way that energy works. Our feet need to be firmly planted on the ground, because we're pulling energy up that we need to sustain us. We're rooted and grounded, so when the inevitable, curveball hits, our feet are grounded. We're not going to get thrown off course so easily, because our feet are firmly into the ground, right? And then our hands, now I cannot do this, I'm not flexible, but our hands are down on the ground where we're putting that energy out. We're doing those things that we want to do. But it's a balance, right? It's a balance of having our feet firmly grounded, taking in the energy that we need to sustain ourselves, and then putting out the energy that needs to be put out as well. And it's that perfect cycle of energy in, energy out. And so I feel like this is the card representing how we should start the new year, versus just like, like craziness energy. It's 2020. It's 2020. Let's start like with that place of balanced energy. So I've been thinking about this card a lot. And Miss Rachel made me think of it, just to think, okay, take a breath, like breathe in, take the energy that you need to kind of root and ground you as you get through all of this. And I don't know why, something about what you said, Rachel, made me think of that card. So I'm going to scroll back, because that was a bit of a rabbit trail. but we're allowed to have rabbit trails. What was I doing? I was doing something before. Can you still buy the Margaret Peterson, Jessica? I believe so. I know people have a hard time finding this version, which is where the back doesn't have any border on it. So I think that some people have a hard time. My understanding is it's a little bit harder to find this version, but I believe you can still get the deck. Not that, again, I have it, so I don't go looking for it either. So, Signs of the Soul said that she just bought it. Okay. So, okay, yeah, so it looks like you can. I hadn't heard that it was out of print or anything like that. Oh, I think we were going to look at this deck for a second. So I got sidetracked when my daughter got me the Mystical Dream Tarot. Now we're just going to look at a couple cards just to see what it looks like here. Is it mixed up? No. The box, the only one that was left when she got it was opened, so I did go through and count to make sure that everything was there. But that's pretty much all. So I know a lot of the it's got a very, you can see color variations, but it has a very blue color palette. Like, look at this 8 of Cups. I love this 8 of Cups. I know, my nail is wretched. I can't stand it. Let's switch hands. I know a lot of, let me see if I can find some major arcana. Or like, here's a Dreamer of Cups. I love that. I know that, and there's a Spirit of Cups. I know that there are things that have been changed. Again, I think it's kind of its own system. So I don't think you're looking for in this deck for it. Oh, let's see what the 3 of Swords are. That's interesting. Oh, I love the 4 of Swords into the mountain. Let me find this in major arcanas. Well, let's see what the 10 of Swords is. Ooh, I like that. Because that's that same mountain that we saw, but now there's water in front of it. Dreamer of Swords has water pouring from her breasts. Interesting. Okay, let me find some. I think that a lot of the major arcanas are changed, but I don't know. I haven't really looked at this deck too much. Master of Secrets for the Magician. Ooh, the Priestess of Dreams for the High Priestess. I love that. Ooh, the Empress is the Dream Carrier. And the Emperor is the Dream Protector. I love that. The Hierophant has stayed the same. And the Lovers has stayed the same. It's interesting. It's like a woman doing the downward dog and the man doing like the corpse pose. Some kind of yoga pose. Justice is 8, I'm guessing, and is Mott. Makes sense. The Wisdom Teacher for 9 is beautiful. Anyways, yeah, I do like the color palette. Sophia for 11, that's interesting. She's sort of what I would think of as like Christian mysticism, which is pretty cool. Like, she's part of the Christian mysticism mindset, which is something oh, look at the Wise Fox for 13. That's so interesting. The Wise Fox. I love, oh, look at Temperance. I love her. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't know anything about this deck. I haven't watched any walkthroughs. The Sorcerer is 15. It looks very dream-based, very subconscious. Oh, look at the moon. Very subconscious-based. The sun, no naked babies, just a big eyeball. 21 is the Serpentia soul, the serpent sun. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do a walkthrough, but I want to. I love the Two of Wands. I'm going to do a walkthrough, but I want to read the book first because it's something totally different. I want to get a grasp on what they're trying to do. So I am going to do a walkthrough of this, but I'm going to wait and read the book on it so that I can do it justice of what they're attempting to do and whether or not it, something that I would use or not. I wouldn't use that, and well, just from skimming it, I wouldn't use it as in place of just a regular tarot deck to do a tarot reading. It's doing its own thing. But I would think for healing work and for subconscious work and things of that nature that it could be really powerful there. Hello, Miss K. I really enjoy your walkthroughs of your decks. Oh, I'm so glad that you do. Oh, Miss Veronica, I know her dog, but I agree with Miss Veronica. Just having the time you can and getting that extra time is wonderful. Chunky Chorky. Oh, the creator of that deck has a YouTube channel. I'll have to look that up. Okay, I'm gonna stop scrolling. Emily says, at least it gives her time to save some money before my walkthrough. So I do need to post. I have a year ahead process. Oh, and I literally just dumped tea all over myself. Just a second. Let me grab here's a towel. It's a great thing when you throw towels around because then I just literally was talking with my tea and threw tea on myself because, why be careful with a big cup of tea when you're talking? This is why my mother always called me Grace, which is not because I am graceful. It is because I am the antithesis of grace. I have many positive points, but gracefulness is not one of them. Oh, I feel now I'm going to feel a little gross. I know throwing candles, now throwing tea. Let's not throw tea around laptops. That's not good. At least I was throwing it this way instead of the other way. I have a year ahead video out, Miss Sue. But I will tell you, I can really tell you what my process is. My process is that for myself, I lay out, I shuffle the cards and I pull from the bottom of the deck, I pull my card of the year. And then from the split, I lay out a card for each of the months. For the wheel of the year, for myself, I pull an animal. So I used an animal deck. Now my octopus was one I chose for myself because of messages, but I used the Spirit of the Animals Oracle, and I pulled an animal energy for each of the points of the 8 points of the wheel. So I follow the astrological points of the year. I don't really follow as much the Sabbats, but I do follow each of the astrological points of this. There's two. You have your winter solstice and your winter's cross quarter, your spring equinox and your spring cross quarter, and so on and so forth around. So I pull 8 cards for that. And I keep those up where I'm keeping an eye on them, but I will do so. I'm meant to do that before now. I'll just kind of run through it quickly in the video. Wheel, and I already wrote this down last time. This was just definitely a busier end of the year than I would have liked it to have been. So I will try to get that up quickly so that you can see that. But the year ahead is already up somewhere in my mess of videos. laughter is a great part of parenting tool. Laughter is a great life tool. It really is, right? Laughter, I feel like most of us would go a little insane if we never were able to laugh. Miss Al said, I was holding the spirit animals oracle deck. I feel I'm going to definitely have to come back with a washcloth because everything's going to be sticky. I love this deck. This, and like I set it there because I don't want to get it sticky. I'm not a fan of all the text, but you know, sometimes you just have to let go of the little things that you don't love. Let's pull an animal reading for Miss Al. We need to pull our card of the week. I forgot to do that at the end of the conversation. I got sidetracked. Surprise! I love messenger. Oh, are you talking about? Wait, I'm thinking of the square ones. I think that's called the messenger cards by somebody Kuntz, Kuntz. I love that deck so much. I just wish there's a lot of repeat animals in it, and they're animals that I love, but it is, but you don't get a different animal on every card. So for certain things, when I want that, I love this. I am going to do a walkthrough of the 5-cent tarot. Yes, it is on. Actually, I don't know if it's one that got deleted. No, that's on my computer. I've done a walkthrough of it. I don't even know. I still haven't sat down. I usually like to do it on the first, but I haven't quite sat down and said, okay, what are things that I have on the table that I need to get walkthroughs done? Like set up like some video plans. I haven't done that yet. I have filmed the first impressions of 5-cent tarot. I just have to edit it. So I do love the 5-cent tarot. There are a couple of cards that were like the 8 of Cups, I think, was the most like, and then the 7 of Swords. I was like, oh, like it didn't leave none of the keywords left any. Oh, Isabel. She's all out of sorts, but I love the look of it. It's gorgeous. And a lot of the cards that I would normally find problematic, I feel like they left open space for. So I was really surprised at those two cards that there was like no open space for it. The 8 of Cups, especially because I don't generally see the 8 of Cups interpreted as being something negative, let alone fully negative. So that was kind of surprising to me. Those are two that stick out to me. Could you do a live chat on animal? That's a good topic because I try to say that whenever we talk about animal energy, there is a difference between animal spirit than the actual animal. Every time I say that, bear is an energy that I've worked with for a very long time. And a lot of my dreams have a lot of encounters with bear, my connection with bear. And while in those dreams, the bear is a she and is very protective and is very like physically will push me out of going in directions that are going to take me to difficult spaces and things like that. So I have very powerful supportive encounters with bear a lot in journeying and dream work. But if I met a bear in real life, like I'm not going to run up, I'm not going to run up to that bear and be like, oh, finally I get to meet you in the flesh and like get my head eaten off, right? That's so every time somebody brings that up, I always think of, as much as I work with bear energy, like I would be terrified, and rightly so, if I came face to face with a bear. and would be foolish not to treat that as a wild creature with very different intentions than my own, and be smart. So yeah, there's definitely a difference. I think I missed something. My mom had a phobia for bears. I love bears. And I was sent this most amazing, I think I showed it. Let me see if I can get to it. I've got, of course, too many things in my journey book. But right in the front, this is a photograph of a bear climbing up a tree. It's like an old black and white photograph. And that just made my absolute day. And it was two bears up there. So that's keeping that in there just kind of as a reminder. But again, should you meet animals in the forest, you should treat them as wild creatures, not as your spirit animal. So just that's my advice. My advice is if you meet a bear, treat it as a bear, not as a spirit bear. Do people not? I don't know, Emily, but I always make sure to note that there is a vast difference. Now, I do believe that the basic ways in which animals act and function in the natural world, natural animals, that tells us something about the energy when working with animal energy, which is how I prefer to think of it. I don't really, I mean, there's not a lot of good words. Like, I don't really think in terms of, like, I don't think of having totem animals or something like that, but I do have animal energy that I work with. And, I do think that one of the ways to kind of sink into what a particular animal energy is to pay attention to how do they function, what are the ways in which they interact with the natural world. That has an impact, in my opinion, on how we see how does that particular animal energy support us, what is that bringing to us. And then, of course, then I go. So I start there. So I would start with how do we see that animal interacting with its environment? And then what are the myths? What are the stories and the myths surrounding that particular animal? So those kind of things can impact how do you work with the energy of a particular animal. But I agree with Emily. They should be very different. Mossy says there are bears in my neighborhood and I've yet to see them, but there's a mom with her 2 cubs. That's awesome. Hello, Adam. Adam was saying something, but I missed it. So many of my questions have been answered. I'm not missing a conversation there, so I won't jump into it. Oh, don't be blunt or rude to Miss Nikki. No. For the past year, I've been... Well, you also have different people from week to week, not always the same people. So I would say not everybody does follow the chats from week to week or remember some because they probably have a lot of other stuff that happens during the week. But again, I think it's a conversation I'm missing on. So I'm not going to go further. Sherry's not sure what a spiritual animals would connect with cats the most. Well, maybe that's your answer. Kay has a healthy phobia of bears as well. We see bears in our town when food is hard to find. I live in a small town 100 miles from Toronto. We're living in a shared space and need to remember that. Yeah, definitely the closer you are to natural animal habitats, that seeing it as shared space, I think, is a wonderful way to put that. I'm living in shared space with a whole lot of squirrels. and they are quite wonderful to watch and quite destructive and cause quite a lot of damage to cars. But they are sure enjoying themselves. Okay, I'm going to pull these cards. I think Elle's probably falling asleep. We have the Lion for higher calling. Oh, for sure, Claire or Sherry, no question. I have 3. Oh, there you are, Neighborhood Arts. I didn't see you. I know it just made I can't even explain how much it made my day. I don't know, entirely why, but it's part of my year. So I so appreciate that you came across that. Okay, so we have Lion Higher Calling. We have Black Jaguar for Old Soul. And then we have the Longhorn for taking action. One of the things that I like here is that we're seeing this sense of higher calling, this sense of leadership. This lions to me are very much about sort of being in the seat of your own power, very emperor energy, even though I know that's Ram and Aries and all that. But it's that sense of really a sense of confidence and a very settled in your own skin. It's one of the things that I guess I love about animal energy is because if you observe animals in nature, they are so comfortable in their own skin and how they're going to go about the business of what they're doing, right? They aren't as plagued, thankfully, as we are with kind of overthinking things and processing through things and this and then. Our brains are a little crazy brain, as I say, right? They just are what they are, and they're very comfortable in what they are. And they don't say, the lion is not saying, oh, I don't know if I should go and kill this deer because I don't know if that's the right thing that I should be doing, or this is what their function is, this is what they do, this is their circle, this is our piece of the circle, right? And so they're very much just confident in that. And I think that that's a lot of what animal energy can bring to the table, is a sense of reminding us and supporting us in that sense of being more comfortable in our own skin and working with ourselves. So I love that. And especially I think I see that in the cats. Now I'm a Mowgli fan of the book, and I do love the new Jungle Book movies, but so Black Panthers and just big cats like that, the way that they work, is the way that they walk and the way that they just move with their bodies, I just find to be incredibly present in a powerful way. But anyway, so I think of that sense of starting from a place of confidence, right? And then we have this old soul nature of the Black Jaguar, deep energy, right? And so visually, even this light and this dark, and sort of balancing ourselves in our confidence that comes from understanding, well, in my understanding, I don't believe that we've just lived one lifetime, that we are old souls walking this earth, and that we have our ancestors behind us. We have animal energy around us. And so from this place, that's where we take action. So it's not action here, it's action here that's from a place of grounding ourselves in our power and our strength, in the understanding of this older, deeper energy. When we take action from that place, then we're going to really start to accomplish things. Then we're doing that since this purposeful, confident place. And that action is going to have a lot of power behind it, versus just action, like bouncing around like a ping pong ball. That's not a word. I don't mean a ping pong ball. I mean a pinball, a pinball bouncing around. So I quite like those cards together. This is Jody Bergsma's deck. This is the Spirit of the Animals Oracle by Jody Bergsma. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. So, yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, we got Black Jaguar. You've got the lion. I love the moose in this card. Love. There's 2 bears in this, which I love. think, at least two. Love the Raven Shaman. Love that's more my energy. I love Coyote, Owl. There's actual cats and dogs, which I like. Bison, I love. Yep, here's a snow leopard. Here's a tiger. So yeah, there's definitely, here's another bear. There's 3 bears. Love it. Love it. Elephant. Of course, my squirrel and chickadee. That's one of my favorite cards. This deck. I love her. Like paint on it. I think that's where I originally saw her. I think before I even had any decks with her artwork in it. I love, that's one of my favorite decks, and certainly one of my favorite answers. Scrolling up because I'm going to start just cutting these. Oh no, that's so terrible. I know, I've been watching that, Simon. The devastation for animals and humans is just so strong. It's crazy. That's only, yeah, and that's just an estimate. So, I think that we won't know like the long-term impact for quite a while. What happens immediately versus, what is the problem over time as things try to recover and that kind of stuff. It can be even worse. Somebody says I am buffering, so I guess I won't say anything else until I can see if anybody else is seeing, if I'm stuck. Oh, I'm okay. Sherry says I'm okay. 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 Okay, good. All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull. I don't even know what time it is. We're just like winging it today. Winging a prayer. We have to pull our card of the week. So this is Happy New Year to you as well, Labyrinth. And thank you. I just got it cut. Again, I have to kind of wash it and style it myself, but she did give me some layers. She had a good talk with me because I was getting really frustrated with my hair because, I'm growing it out. And she's like, look, you can still put some layers in so that you don't have to hate your hair. Plus, I was using hair products for Pixie. And it was, I think, too heavy of products now that it's getting longer. So she's kind of straightened me out on a couple things. But thank you. I appreciate it. This is the Art of Life Tarot by Charlene Livingston. I don't know if tarot students still here or not. I don't know if I feel like we've probably done it almost a year, but it's certainly been a while that we've been pulling a card of the week with this deck, and I'm greatly enjoying it. Okay, so it's difficult to grow out her hair. I finally grew out, and then I'm thinking about another pixie guy. I feel like that's what's going to happen to me at some point, Kay. I really do miss my hair. So I'm going to see. We'll just see what happens. But it is difficult. Kay says, I wasn't yelling. But she's really feeling determined about cutting it back off again. It's just hair. But boy, when your hair is not doing what you want, it can be so frustrating. Neighborhood Heart says, I'm glad I bought this deck. It really is. I haven't even done a walkthrough of this deck, which is ridiculous when I think about it, because it is such a great deck. Al feels her caps. Oh, nice, Nikki. Nikki was gifted this deck for Christmas. I know. It stays on my desk all the time. I love it. Shadows towards her Kay in New York. Everybody's thinking, oh, maybe we need a haircut because Kay is reverberating across the world. Oh, no. I know I haven't edged it or anything. I would probably do like my favorite gold that I edge things in. I need to do a walkthrough of it though this year because it's kind of ridiculous that I don't have a walkthrough of this one when we use it so much. I love quotes so much and I love art, so it's like kind of a it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Okay, so let's see what card might help us to navigate this coming week. Ooh, thank you. 10 of Swords. Now, this is an interesting picture. It is called, I can't read, The Crown by, I cannot see the first name, Redden. This was from 1910, but the quote is by Benjamin Franklin, and it says, "Those things that hurt instruct." Now, you know why I love the 10, what I think about the 10 of Swords. So for me, the 10 of Swords is the culmination of the suit of swords. The 10 of Wands is a culmination of the suit of fire. The 10 of Cups is a culmination of the suit of cups. So for me, the culmination of the suit of swords and the mind and intellect is not somebody laying dead on the ground. I just don't read it that way. It's kind of coming full circle into a way of thinking and using that and kind of coming into ownership of our own thoughts throughout that process. If we start with 1 and we go up to 10, right? So it's that culminating thought processes. And so this isn't about, it's not about, I just lost my train of thought because I was just seeing Maria and saying shadows just put her, I need to heck my decks. And then Maria said, you just put my life into perspective. I totally lost my train of thought. This is why I don't like try not to look at the chat when I'm talking, because I totally lose my train of thought. 10 of Swords moments are not about just kind of quick reactions and not thinking. It's about actually reacting to situations with thought, reacting to situations with the culmination of what we have learned. So it's really asking us to think before we act. Think before we react. Use everything that we have learned in our interactions with the world and the people that are around us. And so having that, but I agree with Benjamin Franklin, the things that hurt do instruct. The things that are beautiful and joyous also instruct, right? It all instructs. That's my problem with the suit of swords and the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's all instruction. Our whole life, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, all of it is instructing us. All of it we're learning from. And if we take all of that and learn from it and account for all of that, when we get to the 10 of Swords, we're able to act and react from a place of knowledge and understanding versus reacting to those individual things that are happening. And so I think that that's what's so powerful about the 10 of Swords, is because that's that moment when we really do coalesce all of these things that we've learned throughout our life, the good things and the bad things, and having this all come into fruition in the 10 of Swords. Then we are in that position to rise up and become the Queen of Swords. I'm still thinking about the 10 of Swords in the original Light Seers Tarot because I had just done that favorite. So I had talked about the 10 of Swords in that deck being the Queen of Swords and making. And so, but that's what the 10 of Swords is, that sort of rising up. And now we've learned this. And so in terms of a week card, a card of the week, I do think about that as asking you or reminding you as you are going through your week to bring those things that you've learned through life to bear on your reactions and your actions this week, to not just, reacting quickly or foolishly, but using everything that you've learned throughout your life to help you to react and act and make choices and decisions this week the way you need to. And so that might be something that is going to aid us this week. For all we know, we'll find out. Usually does. So I'm putting mine. So the one, if you haven't seen this deck, it comes with like this little stand. So the lid can either close or it can have, you can put the card into like the little picture frame. So I just set it on my desk, and that way every time I'm working and sitting here, I can see the card of the week to help remind me of those things. Is there a deck that approaches the sword suit as a tempering of the mind? Yes. Al, I'm like, yes. Let me try to think of one. Yeah, there are ones that approach it more thoughtfully. Pips. Here comes my my biases against things. Pip decks. Pip decks come at it that way. They all do. They all come at it with a suit of the mind. They just tend to hit and miss it, right? It doesn't follow through very well. I'll tell you one because I just reordered it. I ordered the pocket version. It's coming tomorrow. Is the I'm totally blanking, the Dreams of Gaia Tarot by Raven Phelan. That she takes, though, you can see that progression of the mind in that. Another deck that's coming out is the not Robert Place. Sorry, Tammy Pie. His decks definitely do, like Tarot of the Sevenfold Mysteries. Let's see what his 10 of Swords looks like. Dreams of Gaia does it. I also would say probably I totally blanked. Okay, let me back it up here. Yes, there's a Pocket Dreams of Gaia, Emily, that does not have shiny cardstock. And it has a gorgeous burgundy back on it. But anyways, I just ordered the pocket version of it. I have videos on the Dreams of Gaia itself, but I cannot wait to get the pocket version. Miss Anna Turin, who has a couple different tarot decks out there. Well, she has one tarot deck, and then she's the artist for the Bone Stone and Earthflesh. I don't believe that's out yet, or it hasn't been processed out yet, so I don't think people have it, but she did the artwork for it. She has a deck out called the Abyss Tarot, and that's coming out, I think, through US Games. And she does an amazing job. I have a test copy of it, which I'm not allowed to show, but not US Games, just when she was going through the process of writing the book. And she gives an extra two, Three of Swords to choose from, I believe. And her 10 of Swords is the most perfect 10 of Swords I have ever seen. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I can't wait for that deck to come out so I can talk about it, because it's one of my favorite decks. I love it. It's all black and white. But my point is that her suit of swords does follow the mind much more even though I do think her deck is more traditionally Rider-Waite-Smith, she gives you a choice on your 3 of Swords, which is really beautiful. And which I think is the fix. Like, I really do feel like the fix, it's such an easy fix. It's generally the 3 of Swords and the 10 of Swords that are the most problematic. I can work with the 9 of Swords because the 9 of Swords is about exaggerated mental, both good and bad. It only shows usually the bad in Rider-Waite-Smith's 9 of Swords, but I can work with it. But the 10 of Swords, just have an extra, and then it would be really open to how people might read it. I'm trying to see if I can find quickly, but you know how that goes. I love this 2 of Swords. So simple. I've said this before. I think it probably irritates people because I always qualify. Oh, this is kind of Rider-Waite-Smith, so I got to take it as what it is. Rider-Waite-Smith is, we know very clearly that Arthur E. Waite with the minors took from a lot of different sources. So he did pull from playing cards, but it wasn't pulled fully, right? So playing card divination works. Even though the suit of spades is all negative, it works because you have an entire suit of hearts that balances it, and then you have the kind of with the pentacles balancing the kind of the clubs. So it works because the whole system works together. But when just some of the things are pulled out and not pulled consistently across the whole minors, that's when I think you get some more problematic cards. But that's my own personal opinion. So here we go. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 9. No, his does have it poking in. This is Tarot of the Sevenfold Mysteries, but it's not quite, it's not as bad, I guess, as some, but it's still there. But I don't know about his other ones. That's the only one that I have of Robert M. Place. BS and EF is due. I'm not sure what BS and EF is. Sorry, Kay. Okay, I thought so. Okay. Is he doing a Marseille? I love his work. I mean, he does have a fabulous work. This is my favorite. I love this. One of my favorite decks. I love it. But definitely Dreams of Gaia. I think it was Al. Was Al one asking about what keeps it in the realm of the mind? I think that that does it really well. There are decks. I guess I'll have to try to think it through. But, most of the decks that are out there today are certainly based off of, Margaret Peterson does the swords really amazingly because it's all feathers. That's really amazing. I'll have to think about that. Like, what are the decks that kind of keep the consistency of the world of intellect? Oh, I don't have it out here. There's one that I think is all quills. It's made by the person who did the Curious Oracle, Holly DeFont. I cannot read this, I have my glasses on, so you can tell how small it is and how bad my eyes are. Anyways, if you go on Etsy maybe and search a Curious Oracle, she has a tarot deck, and I really like her use of quills in the sword suit. Lightseers, definitely. Lightseers, 10 of Swords. Well, we were already talking about that. So that one we already kind of covered. I want to say that the progression of swords in the Santa Muerta, but I don't know if it keeps it fully in the suit of the mind. I mean, this 9 of Swords is awesome. I really like what Santa Muerta does with the pips. They do amazing job showing the progression of the suits and the elements. But I do think one of the best iterations of that is with the Dreams of Gaia. That's one of the things that she just sort of corrected in a way of to keep each of the suits in their element and following that progression really beautifully. She does a really good job of that. Once I get that, I said it's supposed to come tomorrow, and I'll probably do a comparison of the two. I'm trying to find the 10 of Swords in the Santa Muerta. Here's the 7 of Swords. I don't know why. I don't know why I try to do this on camera, because you never can find what you're looking for. And all you do is sit there and watch me go sift through cards. So it's not very helpful. But anyways, I'm going to stop. Hopefully, I don't think that helped Elle at all. But it's one of the reasons why a lot of people do love pip decks, is because they leave the energy of the cards open to the numbers in the suit, and you don't have scenes that really lock it in on a specific system. So that's a lot of times why, why people like me tend to like pip decks. So yeah. Kay's going to make supper. Have a wonderful supper. Yeah, I'm about ready to pop off pretty soon. I think I'm trying to see. Oh, you know what? Let me look at something real quick. I would like to at least show you this one card. I wonder if I can show you. Let me search real quick. Oh, wait. You know what? I bet she has the Abyss Tarot. Does she have a website up for it? Tarot of the Abyss. Oh. I'm not. I love you, Anna, but I'm not fond of websites that. I'm not fond of websites that. Yes, here we go. You can see Queen here. I'm gonna try to put this link. Well, here I'm gonna link you. Whoops, cancel. I'm gonna link you this. Oops, 1 second. It says the Suit of Cups, but it's actually the Suit of Swords. So I'm going to copy this. I've lost you, so I can't see you. Okay, so if you go here, you may have to change it in the, if you go to this website, you may have to go to Minor Arcana and choose the Suit of Swords. But you can see there is 2 3 of Swords. That you can choose from. And one of them is very much the concept of learning that's there. And then if you go down to the 10 of Swords, you can see that there is a traditional Rider-Waite Smith, but then she gives you an alternative on my begging. She gives you a beautiful alternative where you have this wise old man face to face with this wise old owl. And to me, it's the epitome of the 10 of Swords, right? It is that we have come to full understanding and we've come to full knowledge. And there is that sense of wisdom and knowledge that's gained through all of our experiences. And so then people who are, because there are a lot of people who read Rider-Waite Smith, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a system that some people read, but people who do read Rider-Waite Smith have those options. But for people like myself who read more numerically, then you have the other option. And I feel like that's 2 cards. Now there's a couple others that I think would, so maybe let's say 4 cards even, that if they just give you those 4 extra options, then it would really open decks up to however people read them, which I think is really awesome. It does go. I know it says cups. It must just got thrown off in some way. Leslie prefers a mini. I can't wait to get mine, Leslie, and see it. Um, Yeah, I do love the black and white too as well. That's, I think, coming out sometime this year. I'll have to ask her. I don't know if that she even has a date because it's being put out by US Games. So I don't know if she has a date for it or not. Maybe check on her Facebook group, but I think it's coming out sometime this year. So I'm excited about that because I've had a copy that I've kind of been playing around with and I love the deck so much. Okay, I'm scrolled up here, so I can't see what anybody's saying down there. Trying to see if I missed anything. Whale song. Does the lightseers come with a? No, I wish. I think that would have been a great. Again, I kind of wish Hay House would have done that, given you the choice between the two. I like it when decks like give you choices like that. I do think that that's a great way to approach something like that. That would be really helpful. And I feel like it's not too much trouble. And it's not too much more artwork on the artist part. It's not too much work. And I feel like on the publisher, either the person self-publishing or the publisher, doing just a couple cards like that where you have the options. I really wish, like, let's take the Marielle Tarot with a new version. I wish that those changed cards were extra cards so that you could keep the original cards if you wanted to, and then subbed in the other ones if you wanted. So then that would be, I just think it's like an extra cool thing to do. I think people would respond well to being able to have a choice like that. I feel like at very little cost, it allows you to have choices there, which I think would be nice. I'm missing something. Elle wants to ask me if I'm familiar with it. I missed something. Yes, Force of Enchantment. Well, Force of Enchantment keeps everything as a progressive storyline. And so it does a really good job of that progression that's happening from one thing to another. And you see the tie very well, and definitely comes to the mind of, okay, how are you going to get out of these particular situations? The Witcher. I think I've watched 2 episodes of The Witcher. I've liked the 2 that I've seen. I've played some of the Witcher game. I have not read, I don't think, any of the books. If I did, it was a long time ago. Not that I can remember, but I liked what I saw. I just got caught up in watching a couple other things, so I haven't watched all of the Witcher ones yet. Papa Squirrel. Hello, Papa Squirrel. Kelly, you must read the book. I've heard that. And that's why I'm trying to, maybe I have, because I feel like that would have been something I would have read when they came out. And so I feel like, I don't know. I've got to, fortunately, I should say, I've had the privilege of reading a lot of books over my lifetime. So sometimes I am kind of like, have to like read a little bit of it to see whether or not I've read it or not. So I feel like it's highly possible that I did, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. And I've heard only good things about the book. So it's definitely on my list to read. But I know I played the game and I know I've seen a couple of the episodes. I check my Instagram. I will check my Instagram. I have not that in my Facebook. If you sent me a Facebook message or Instagram DM, I am not caught up. I definitely not. I'm at that point with like messages. That was one of the things that really got away after a while, because there's just so many different ways you get messages that I'm about to just like clear the slates and start fresh. Just like start fresh, clear everything out, because it's so overwhelming. And just say, you know what, the slates are cleared. If I've missed something, you're gonna just have to it is really important. You're gonna have to resend it because my slates cleared. I don't know if that's something that I can do, but I'm highly considering it. I hear you, Kelly. My song, I know. Oh, I don't. It's very stressful. It's very stressful. Sherry, see, not quite. Sherry's leaving. Goodbye, Sherry. Polish Express's friend Jack Francis tying Earth. House copy of the Sue received it. Mine was poorly cut too. It wasn't horrible, but it was definitely half of the deck was cut smaller than the rest of the deck. So you can definitely, it's not a smooth cut, but I know that they're reprinting it. So they seem to be dealing with it well from everything that I've seen. They are, doing what needs to be done to fix the situation. My Instagram messages, some of them do. There is, I didn't even know, Simon, that there was a spam folder. I don't know. I don't even know if that maybe is something new, because I saw that not too long ago. I seen that and I didn't even know that Instagram had a spam messages. All of it's very, very over. There's just too many. I think there's just too many ways. And so then you start to get messages scattered everywhere. So I think I may just go to trying to figure out a way that there's just one place that I take I want to say random messages, that's a bad thing, but you know what I mean. Just messages outside of business messages, that it just goes into one place, because I think anybody, who even just not just talking about businesses, but I think people in general who have multiple social media points, it can very quickly, you've got too many ways in which there can be messages setting here, messages setting in a spam. Facebook's the worst, because it can have a place where it puts people that you're not friends with, or there's 3 or 4 different, and they get lost. It's your Facebook page, it's your Facebook Messenger, it's your Facebook, this other kind of thing that it goes in, and it just gets to be a little bit crazy. And there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way to kind of plug all the holes and just have one way forward, that this is the way that I respond to messages from this place and this place only. I think there has to be a way to do that, because it just gets a little bit insane. Sorry, that was a whine. I had myself a little whine. I do apologize, but sometimes it's part of the end of the year. Oh. That's what I'm wondering. That's a good suggestion, Neighborhood Arts. I don't know if there is a way to set an automated reply. I mean, you could put it in your profile, certainly, that says if you want me to see a message, it needs to go here. So I don't know. That's a good question to check that out, to see if there is a way to do that. So it's just one space. Versus just so many different ways, and then things get lost and it just gets insane. So anyways, again, that was a personal whinge. Beautiful, beautiful deck. I don't have the Muse. I think they're talking about the Muse Tarot. I don't have the Muse Tarot. I think it's more collage-y in a way. I don't think it's collage, but it's a little more collage-y. And I think it's the Kings. Tammy Pie's saying it's the King. I know one set of cards is sideways. That would probably bother me. If all the courts were sideways, then it might be okay. But having one thing that's just the other way and all the other cards are not, that would probably bother my brain. But that's not what I picked up, so I don't really know much about it. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful if you like that style of artwork, for sure. I have not worked with her Oracle deck. As much as I like the Light Seers, I'm definitely tempted by her Oracle deck now. I don't know if it's still in print or not. Kelly, in your favorites video. I'm not sure, Susanna. Hello, Susanna. I'm not sure what you're asking there. Maybe if you rephrase that, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're asking there. Let's see. I'm scrolling up here. Oh, I pre-ordered the oh, there's audio poetry on her site. Oh, that's amazing. I did not know that, Essence. Okay. Oh, I did not know that. Rachel said her Oracle deck got picked up by Hay House. It's called something about, is it something about creators? I can't remember what it's called, Rachel. I did not know that that was picked up by Hay House. That's good to know. Sacred Creators. Thank you, Miss Veronica. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that's coming out by Hay House. I'll definitely get that. I hope they put it on the Yummy Mac cardstock. Claire missed out on both. And yeah, well, at least is the Muse coming out by Hay House? I don't know. I don't know if the Muse is coming out by Hay House or not, but you can at least get the Lightseers. Very basic question. I usually leave my spreads on the table for as long as 2 weeks. Is that bad for the card quality? You know, Maria, that's a good question because I do the same thing. I do like to leave certain spreads that I do, especially when I'm doing like ancestry readings for myself, or I'm doing a past life reading, or if I'm doing I don't know, something like that, or like my year ahead reading. When I first do that, I like to leave that out for a while. I will say, in all fairness, that some cards do, when you leave them out like that, where they're just laying there, they do get a bit of a warp to them sometimes. They will, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if it's that they just kind of bend off the table a little bit. And so you get a little bit of a bend in them. Sometimes, you know how some decks get a little bit of a twist, just a slight twist in them, and some of them do that when it's just laying out. So there are, and it's not just cheap. I really will say it's not just that because it's like from a cheap deck. In fact, I would say almost that mass markets don't do it as much as the better card stocks do. But it does. When I leave cards out for, I don't know if I've ever left them out for 2 weeks, but I certainly have for a week, and they will sometimes do that, but I've never had it cause a long-term problem. I think that is because I riffle shuffle and I bridge, right? So when I riffle shuffle, I'm bridging, so I'm riffling it, which is bending it, and then I'm bridging it, which is bending it the other way, if that makes sense. And so I found with a couple of shuffles, it always comes back into place. So I've not ever had it. I've never had it be a permanent problem. But again, I will say probably the most that I've left it out is for like a week. And I do that a lot. And it does, and sometimes it's really good card stock. I noticed it on my Majestic Earth. They just get a little bit of a warp to them when they're just left out for a while, but it very quickly goes back into place. So I've never had a permanent problem from it. But that's my experience. So I would say, in my opinion, I would just do it anyways. Like, it's more important that you're able to work with the cards the way that you want to work with the cards. And I think, like somebody said, I think it was Moon Pre Lucy. I think depending on your house, like is it a high humidity time? Is the air really dry? Like, I think those types of things probably have an impact on what cardstock's reacting to what your climate is in your house at the time. But I personally would not leave them out for that reason, because I think it's more important that you sit with that reading and get everything that you need from that reading versus that little bit of having to work with that bend there. So yeah, that's my personal opinion. Decks are made to be used, and I just never come across where I feel like, oh my gosh, like I've ruined the deck because of it. Um, Adam says his cards mostly get damaged from being in his brief bag. So do you just maybe take certain decks that you don't mind getting kind of beat up a little bit? In your favorites video, the wild doesn't appear. How is it going to becoming a favorite for you? Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry because I feel like I don't want you to feel frustrated. I don't know what to, I'm gonna see if I can Google translate this word and see if maybe it tells. I'm thinking maybe you're talking about the wild unknown archetype cards. Is kind of what I think that you're asking, but that's just a guess from me. Yeah, I see young coming up. So I think you're asking, okay, if I'm wrong, just let me know. Okay, yes. Or no, that's not. That is, wait, is it Susanna? Yes. Okay. I haven't worked a ton with it. It's still over on my table. I'm gonna do a video this week. This cubicle right here, and then that is over on my desk. These are decks that I want to work more with. So I'm not going to say that some of these aren't going to become favorites because, like, for example, it's way back here because like these are two oracle decks that I've had some really powerful readings out of, and they may very well become favorites, but they aren't. I haven't worked enough with them to feel like, oh, these are going to be my favorites. And that's where the archetype cards are at. I want to work more with it. It's one of the decks that I want to have more work done with it in 2020 to see whether that becomes a favorite or it doesn't. So the cards that are here and here and here are favorite decks that have, they're just favorites. I love them and I've used them. Some of them are newer, but they're just, I love these particular decks for one reason or another. Whereas what's in here are decks that I want to work with more to figure out if that's whether if they're gonna become favorites or not. So I want to do a video on those decks that I have set out for working with in 2020 that I'd like to see where are those going to end up landing. No need to apologize, Susanna. I can tell that your English wasn't your first language. I would not be able to say anything helpful to you in Spanish. So I think that you are absolutely doing fantastic. I was just didn't want you to feel frustrated because I wasn't getting what you were saying. I'm not sure that there's conversation about scalping going on. I'm missing that. So I am not going to dive into that. I think it's to do with like the Lightseer's tarot being like $600 on eBay or something like that, which is, I guess I go back and forth. I'm like, well, if somebody's going to pay wants to pay $600 for a deck, that's, their money, like do what they want to do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with making, like if you have a deck that's out of print, I don't have a problem with somebody making money off of it to some degree, but there is a degree that goes to like, oh, and I wonder though, I wonder if that is, if they're really selling for that or if that's just what we're seeing on eBay. Sometimes when you see those prices and you think, that's what somebody put up as an eBay sale, but I don't know that we can, as there's a way you can tell whether any of them actually sold that high. I don't know. I don't watch those things enough. Hello, I think it's Rafael, maybe. I am sure I'm slaughtering it in Poland. Hello to you. If someone buys a painting for $1,000 and sells it in 10 years later for $5,000, are they obligated to contact? No, I don't believe so. And that's part of my, I guess, Adam, that's kind of part of my thing. It's like, well, there's a lot of things in which that happens or surrounding art, where art does increase in value. I think this particular situation bothers people because it's such quickly after, and it has to do with this problem with the Ten of Swords changing. And so it feels like taking advantage of a really volatile or difficult situation. So I think it feels like to some people that that's taking advantage of that situation, which is a little bit different than having like a long out of print deck that somebody's willing to pay $400 with. And you see that with like the Fairy Tale Tarot by Lisa Hunt in English. Like if I had a budget for a $400 deck, I might spend that for that deck, and not really have bad feelings towards the person who's held it and that the price has gone up. So it's kind of, it's an interesting conversation, right? Because, on one hand, things do increase in value in collections, and there is a part of tarot deck collections that are there is a collectible aspect of that where things go out of print and they raise in value. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. If a person has a deck and another person's willing to pay money for it, that's none of my business. There's probably pieces of art that I would never pay even $10 for, let alone $20,000 for, right? That's really, like Simon says, that's very subjective. I think, I guess, again, just because this conversation is about this particular deck, I feel like that's what people are reacting to more than anything, is that it's not like it's a deck that's out of print. It's not a deck that is, it's just because of this one situation. But then if somebody really wants that, I don't know. It's problematic, isn't it? Yeah, I use all my decks the same. I don't have any decks that I don't use because of them being out of print. If I spent that money, I would never use it. And I wanted, it would be hard, right? Nice, Psychic Knitter. I am very happy for you. I hope you enjoy it. They're paying $6.100. That's basically the truth, Miss Veronica, because obviously you can get the deck for cheaper. So I think that's different, right? I guess to me, there's two conversations going on, or, collectability and the increase of outer print decks. That's, I think, a natural part of a collection, of something that is involved in collecting, versus what's going on in that particular one. But that's, in the end, I guess if somebody wants to do that, that's their money, I suppose. I use all my decks. Having said that, I've never spent more than $40 on one deck. So yeah, but still, I know I have some that the Baba Studio decks are generally about $80. I know I paid $80 for the Victorian Romantic, and I riffle shuffle the heck out of that. So, Essence, I have people who think of tarot deck as cards and can't understand why I pay $100 or even $20. Yeah, for sure, Essence. That is very, very true. It's all in the perspective, because people who don't use tarot at all think, why would you even pay $40 for a deck of cards, right? Think about baseball cards. Like, I know my ex-husband had gotten a set of, when each of my kids were born, he got like a set of baseball cards for their year. I don't really understand, but it was like baseball cards. I think it was maybe the set of cards for their year. And down the road, those are going to be worth a lot of money. Or he had baseball cards. I remember when we first got married, he had or baseball cards that he collected when he was younger. And those, of course, increase in value. And he was able to sell a fairly small amount of baseball cards to, I think we bought our first car from it or something like that. So, there are collectibles that do increase in value. And I have Pokemon cards, or I have Magic the Gathering cards that I had from a long time ago when I was not collecting them, but playing Magic the Gathering, that are worth more money, now than what they were before. Like, that does happen, and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. It's just, I think, when people feel like it's a little bit crazy. I am a bit more careful with my expensive or out of print decks and with decks that are still available. Yeah, and that makes sense, Andrea.